Hey guys, what's up? Itchla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides Witchla. And today I'm not gonna go out of my way to say that it was the best day. Definitely can't go that far, but it's possible that it's been an important day. That's a possibility. Not really sure what just happened. I hope nothing got. I don't know. My thing just kind of looked. Oh no, never mind. I know what I did. I definitely just adjusted the sensitivity a little bit on my microphone. Yeah, so that was, sorry. I was just saw something that looked a little bit strange. Yeah, I don't know about today. Today, it started pretty fine, but the end of it, just kind of some commotion with things. I think, as usual, people seem to be very upset when I joke. And then, when other people joke towards me and I get upset, of course, I always just have to deal with it. There's not typically people. I just don't understand. I don't know. I know that I can come across in a different way, or I don't always line up what I say with how I mean, but it just seems like odd situations that I get myself into. It just seems like that's been this pattern or this typical trend with things. I don't know. Again, I guess it's hard to say, but I was thinking too about the show and about how I still have a lot of dependency on others. As much as I've improved a lot in that regard, I still think I'm just too I'm too available for people. And I think I'm in a lot of situations where it's just, I just don't know. I don't know what to do anymore. And I think this show, it is an outlet, but at the same time, I don't think I've actually swallowed the pill that I need to swallow yet. At the end of the day, we talk about some interesting things on the show, but it's veiled. The things I talk about are not my true thoughts. They're not my true feelings on things. I don't treat the microphone the same as I do a conversation with a person. And a lot of that has to do with respect. It has to do with respect for others. And maybe I should have learned my lesson by now that there is just, it's just not really fair. I typically have a very high amount of respect for other people and their time and their feelings. And then in comparison, people really don't do too much for me. And I don't really know how else to say it, because it's very apparent and it's very obvious. I mean, and again, there's certain things I may want to say, but I don't say them on here because I don't know. You know what I just don't say them out of not wanting to. Again, I want to keep certain things anonymous, but I wonder if it's blocking my ability to really move forward in my career. I mean, it's even with the face part of it. The fact that I never started doing the face cam. It could be holding me back. I think more important than that, though, there really would be a lot of very interesting things for me to say and to talk about, and there isn't, because I still have to veil things. And I think that's something I'm going to have to get over, but it may take some time. I don't know that I'm ready to just be like dishing out a bunch of personal information, because to me, I still put a very clear barrier between those two things out of respect for people, even though many people have probably violated my own privacy. Like, it's happened to me before. And even through that, I've still just tried to adhere to that. And I wonder too, because the other reoccurring theme is that there's some kind of fate or destiny to my path. Because the truth is, socializing is not, I mean, as much as I love socializing and I really want to socialize, it's not, I just would not be the same person. Like, I don't think my show would have most of the interesting qualities about it if I hadn't gone through and had the space and isolation that I had. And I guess that's an interesting commentary to have about this whole idea behind my isolation theory, and how I think that a lot of times people overestimate the degree that they're an introvert. I know I've talked about that before. I said it a bit more controversially. So I said introverts don't exist. And now I don't think that that's accurate. I do think that introverts do in fact exist, but I think that it's overestimated. I think there's a lot of people who aren't really introverts who say they're an introvert, but it's just because, and I've talked about my theory about that before, I guess, so I don't need to rehash that. But I forgot what I was saying, so now that's a problem, because I actually was pretty happy about whatever point I was about to get into, and then now it just doesn't matter. Because it slipped from me. It slipped from my mind. Oh, I remember. So the thing about isolation is I think it falls into being a fairly exaggerated double-edged sword. I probably should have added it. I probably should have added that sentiment to my video that I had made. But, you know, I didn't do that at the time. I don't know if the mic picked up that guy honking his horn like a million times, but there's still a lot of traffic in front of us, so I don't really, like, I don't get it. But I think he was just fooling around, honestly. I mean, he could have been angry. I don't think he was fooling around, but just in case you were wondering if the microphone picked that up or not. Now, where were we? Yeah, isolation, it really is a double-edged sword, because if you think about it, there are some people who take isolation and it's an advantage. I mean, let's say it how it is. Let's do a total 180 on my thesis. Isolation is a huge advantage. It's a luxury. Now, I don't think people deserve it. I think most people who have it probably don't deserve it. I don't know if I've explained why, but having access to space, having access to isolation should be viewed as a luxury. And in excess, it is just bad. It's just not a good situation. But a lot of people don't compute that, and a lot of people, they just indulge in it. But here's the thing about isolation. While it's risky, some of the most profound concepts and ideas really stem from isolation. It's true that the best things tend to be stemming from isolated sources. The best ideas, the most successful ideas, they all come from people who were able to sit down alone and really think of something. And when you think about monks and other spiritual leaders, it's a common theme as well. You know, they spend a lot of time alone. This is what they do. They spend a lot of time alone, but is it a time alone that's in vain? No, not at all. It's not spending time alone to spend hours on TikTok or spend hours playing a video game. That's where you get into the negative isolation, or where isolation is no more than a luxury. Where, yeah, I mean, technically, there's an advantage to that. I mean, if you cross compared two humans and one human was able to get away with, like, let's say one human just had 8 hours of extra time during their day. They just had 8 hours of extra time, and compared to everybody else has a 24-hour day, this person has a 32-hour day. And then that person in their 32-hour day gets to play video games for 8 hours. And then they can still have the same amount of time as everybody else would have to do their stuff. Like all the important stuff, you know, work a job, do all that. That person is at a massive advantage because they have a lot of time to de-stress, but they're also still able to meet the expectations that people would have for them. So that actually basically goes on as is. There are certain people who are in privileged environments, whether it's a house that is in an area that's more isolated, a larger home where somebody has more space to themselves. Not everybody has their own room. Some people have to share rooms with siblings, super common. But people who have their own room and their own space, and in addition to that, have an extra mental bandwidth to be slower to anger and to be calmer, to be able to go with the flow in a better way. These people are essentially at this advantage. Sometimes I feel like in a way I am as a person, although if I had to work a regular job, I think I would, well, I work a regular job, but I'm saying I genuinely get to say that I like my job. So you can't, I mean, I can't compare that to what most people go through. I just can't. Like, I can accept, and I do think that I'm fortunate. I think it would be difficult for me to think that I'm not fortunate. But other people really have to deal with a lot. They do. They have to deal with a lot of things. And as a result, their mental bandwidth, their stamina, it's lower. Now, a lot of this, it kind of goes back to general mindfulness and general calmness about things, which is something that's been a little bit foreign to me. I think as of late, I have fallen in this trap of just caring too much about people, if that makes sense. Really, overall, caring a lot about people and really trying to not hurt people's feelings and do all these things. But I guess at the end of the day, without trying to, I notice a lot, and sometimes I feel a certain way and I say it. And it's usually accurate, but it's mean to people. They take it that way, even if I'm not being for real or serious about it. So I have to be extra explicit. I suppose I have to be extra explicit in my intentions and what I'm doing. It's difficult, though. I mean, I want to have an environment where I can just be myself in, and it seems like I still haven't found that place. I've been looking for it for my whole life. Been searching, trying to find that place, that environment, that group of people where it's going to feel like they finally get me. And I think it's going to be this place, and then it's not. And I think it's going to be that place, and it's not. But it's this overarching pattern about that theme in my life where it's a weird and unusual thing. Somebody who hasn't really had success socially or with friends, but at the same time, I love talking. And even that, I don't even know if I'm that bitter about it. I obviously say it a lot because I think I'm pretty overdramatic when I talk about how frustrated I get with people. But if I'm going to be honest, again, this kind of falls into the thing about I used to think I was sensitive, but now I don't, because now I've really seen how other people act. And that's just like constantly what I'm thinking now. I just feel like people are really sensitive. I don't really understand why. And, I think I'm sensitive about stuff, but I just communicate it, I articulate it, and there's not, I don't know. Usually it's fine. And I think it's possible that some people have trouble articulating how they feel. I think that's a big thing. I notice a lot of times when I talk to people, I'm kind of like needing to finish people's sentences. And it's not in a rude, I mean, it's in a helpful way. People usually like it. Because it's almost like I know what they're getting at more than they even know. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that's a huge part of it. I think a lot of people, they're angry, but they're so disconnected with themselves that they're just angry, and there's so much going on there. And so now I think I'm less bitter than I was even when I first started making this show, and especially a long time ago. I just don't think I'm as bitter. I think I've seen so much more. The people I've talked to throughout this time has shown me a lot more perspective. But I'm still having trouble letting go of other people. There's still people who I don't know, and I look back and I think, and if I had just been stronger and been at peace being alone, maybe things would have made sense. Maybe things would have been okay. I would have been more okay. It's so interesting for me to think about. I almost think too that I got so deep with things that when I was a teenager, I got very deep. I understood a lot spiritually, and I don't know that I don't think I was actually enlightened, but I think I was on that path, and I kind of just receded a lot. And I have a lot of knowledge, but then I'm dealing with people where I still felt like I was the dumb person. But I actually do, I'm aware of a lot. I mean, a lot, I guess I get wimpy about a lot of things sometimes, but besides that, I do know a lot. And I guess I feel like people know more, but the older I get and the more, again, time adds up. I say this all the time. Time really adds up, and what you do with your time, it adds up the older you get. It's a very real effect. And if I've been someone who's loved to learn and spent a lot of time with this stuff, the older you get, it compounds a lot. Whereas people who, just play games or whatever, that's going to compound into nothing, but it's something. These things matter a lot. They really matter. And yeah, even as I say that, I hesitate a lot, but that's why I said it really should be time for me to just return to what I know I should be doing, which is the deeper things in life. It's not necessarily social in the typical sense. It's just not. And it becomes an addiction. But what am I really doing? During the day, I could be thinking instead of texting people who are not even going to respect me. It's easier said than done, but it kind of feels like a waste of time or a waste of transmission. Whereas I could be just thinking, and just being calm and chill and listening too, being less distracted. The social stimulation, it's an addiction for me, and it's had its benefits, but I've needed to get the experience. I think it's been a part of my path. And it's been somewhat productive, but I guess I think most things are fated anyway. I think a lot of stuff is fated to happen, and you're shaped by the people you meet. But it's been a tough spot. It's been a lot of growing, a lot of thinking, a lot of calculating. I think for the sake of this show, though, there really should be a little bit more of a contemplative mind. And I actually feel that way. There's probably some evidence and correlation. If you compare those Walk Switch Law episodes to this one, to these recent ones, during Walk Switch Law, I really did feel that a lot was going on. I was doing a lot. I was saying a lot, and it was pretty deep. When I think back, that time period was some of my favorite parts in this show, and I don't even know if I was talking to people all that much. I really liked that era when I was doing those walks. Some of my favorite episodes were those walks, and I think, a lot of that has to just do with the fact that I was walking, and it's an entirely different vibe than driving, but still, I guess it proves that part of me never really left. The spiritual side, the side that wants to think and interpret things, and it never really left. It just may be less visible or less active at the moment, but I don't think that means that it's gone. I don't think so. But it's time more than ever to try to think in that way and to try to rechannel those things. Because if I think back to that time, I would have had a lot of things to record and say. And it's actually a shame that I didn't. Because I really would have had a lot to say. I did have a lot to say. And I think it's also okay to be somewhat silly about it. I would have had a lot to say as a teenager, but it wouldn't have held water to what I know today. Just in the same sense as what I say now, I don't know if I'm going to agree with in a couple years. And that's just a part of growth, I think. It's a part of progression. I don't know. I guess I try to be more careful, but I think it reduces the degree of interestingness. How interesting the show is, it reduces it slightly. It does. You know, if I'm being too meticulous about my wording and too critical about this and that, I think at the end of the day, I have to just speak. I have to say certain things that I think are interesting. And I think a lot of that, it gets lost. A part of me is stimulated, it's satiated by these things and texting and receiving stimulation. But I don't know how much it's conducive for me. I think I've been needing to, for a while, think about discipline, and there's just no reason to be putting myself in these environments that, while they're stimulating, while they quell boredom, ultimately not much is getting yielded out of it besides that. And that's really something I should have questioned a lot sooner. But my mind has not really been able to grow. It's still uneasy. It needs some type of a calmer state. And that's something I want to try to be more mindful of. And that includes caring about people less. It does. That would be a huge way for me to be more calm. It would be. So really the show, it's still in its infancy. Infancy? I can't believe I just did that. It's still in its infancy. There's still a lot more to come. Sadly, I don't know how I'm going to get this whole setup into walk switch law, which is pretty aggravating to me. But I don't know what I can do about that. I want to try to figure it out, but it's a lot of equipment. It's an awful lot of equipment. But it has been schla. And now it's time to buy schla. So see you schla.